Probably the most substantial benefit that we can gain from autonomous vehicles is accident reduction. Around 93% of all accidents are just down to human error. So we go through stop signs or red lights, we don't see oncoming traffic, etc. Autonomous vehicles are expected to eradicate almost all of those accidents. In Australia, we lose about 1,200 people a year who die on the roads. If we can get rid of 93% of those accidents, you're saving more than 1,000 lives per year. The other consideration, of course, are people who don't die but end up in hospital. Often that they're quite severe accidents and they can be in rehab for the rest of their lives. We have, again, about 34,000 Australians end up in hospital due to traffic accidents each year. If we can get rid of 93% of those hospital visits, that will be freeing up entire hospital wings and rehabilitation centres. The ongoing benefits to society will be huge, as well as for those individuals who won't be harmed, who would have been otherwise. The cost savings are expected to be around $16 billion a year just in crash prevention alone. If we think about the fact that we have an ageing population and it's ageing rapidly, we've got that huge baby boomer segment that's just entered the retirement years. Autonomous vehicles are understood to be a huge boon for this group. They'll actually be able to stay a lot more mobile for a lot longer once they can use vehicles that don't rely on their faculties to be able to drive. So lots of potential there to do lots of wonderful things to help people who are really quite disadvantaged, particularly, say, blind people who have never had the opportunity to go anywhere on their own in a vehicle, would be able to, with voice activation, just be able to program a vehicle to take them wherever they wanted to go.
I'm Dr. Scott Hollier. I'm a digital access specialist. I've worked in the corporate, government and not-for-profit sectors for about 15 years, and a big part of my focus is to ensure that people with disabilities get access to computers and internet-related technologies. Autonomous vehicles offer huge potential for people with disabilities. As a legally blind person, I'm very much looking forward to the day when I'll be able to jump into an autonomous vehicle and it can take me to where I want to go. It's not only beneficial in terms of getting me somewhere, but it also helps to address issues that I face now, such as my current need to live near public transport. It's exciting to think that if I did have a driverless car and autonomous vehicle, that I could potentially live anywhere, because I'm no longer restricted by that need to be close to shops or close to public transport. So the benefits would really open up for someone such as myself. I think one of the benefits of autonomous vehicles is that it does provide a lot of independence. Again, to use myself as an example, to have the ability to just pop to the shops or be able to go watch my son play soccer or my daughter play golf without the need to have significant coordination of going places, given that I can't drive. It would be great to be able to just jump in the car and go places, something which I can't do at the moment. So I think it does give you a lot of flexibility, a lot of independence. The timing becomes a lot easier. For people, for example, who use a wheelchair and rely a lot on wheelchair taxis, autonomous vehicles mean that they'd be able to better manage the time, don't have to rely on how quickly or how far away a taxi is, and be able to just go in something and do what you want to do. So it'll significantly help in relation to independence.
Like every other innovation, there are going to be downsides, and we're going to need to work through those to make sure that they're not disadvantaging people. So as we said, one of them is that perhaps people will end up using cars more rather than less because they become more dependent on them because they're so convenient. Other risks include things like carjacking, where you could worry about people who are very technology savvy infiltrating the system and commanding vehicles to all turn 90 degrees right now and run into brick walls or people. Those kinds of scenarios are very unlikely. We have lots of agencies in Australia and internationally that are working very hard on making sure that those kinds of issues don't occur. And perhaps think back to our aeroplane example, in that those systems also have to be hijack proof. So we are accustomed to coming up with systems to get around that, but it does take a lot of effort and some very big brains out there to be working on that constantly and to be preempting any kind of problems that may occur.
One of the great things about autonomous vehicle trials is it also helps us to better understand the privacy concerns of the people that use it. With an autonomous vehicle trial, there are lots of sensors collecting lots of information about the individuals. There are cameras on board the actual system, there are cameras on the external of the system. We actually are very careful to make sure that people are aware that their data is being collected.
We've been surveying Australians for the last year or so. We've surveyed around 1,600 Australian drivers aged 16 plus, and we've said to them, what do you know about autonomous vehicles? How do you feel about them? What do you think the biggest positives are? What do you think the biggest negatives are? Fortunately, the overall attitude seems to be reasonably neutral. So on a 5-point scale, most people were kind of around 3, saying, I think I'm interested, but I'm really not quite sure what's involved with this. So there's a huge opportunity there for public education so that people are better informed. Where they did express benefits and concerns, the benefits in general outweighed the concerns. So they tended to see more positives than they could see negatives. And by far the biggest positive is this ability for immobile people to be able to be freed up to go where they want to go. The biggest concern that people have, interestingly, is around job losses. So they're very aware, of course, that autonomous vehicles will no longer require drivers. So if you're a truck driver, if you're a taxi or an Uber driver, if you're a courier, you won't have a job in the longer term once all vehicles are automated. So people are quite aware that that's going to be an outcome. And again, that brings us back to our governments being very proactive in this space and seeing that this is coming and making sure that we have kind of retraining or other opportunities available for people. And overall, internationally, the big studies have shown that the net employment outcome is going to be positive. We're going to have more jobs rather than fewer, but they're going to be based in IT. Connected autonomous vehicles are coming, there's no doubt about it. We're going to have them here, and it's a really, really good thing. They're going to have amazing effects in terms of almost completely eradicating traffic accidents, in terms of allowing people who otherwise can't be mobile to be independent and get where they need to go, in terms of reducing the number of emissions so that we've actually got a much healthier city to live in, and also in terms of flexibility, allowing us to use our travel time for leisure or for additional work to increase our productivity. They're going to be a real boon. They're going to change the way our cities are laid out. They're going to change the way that our homes look. Will they have a garage or will they not? If we're using group vehicles, the ability of those vehicles to talk to each other will increase the efficiency of our road systems and reduce congestion. So it's a good thing.